So we're wandering around Egypt. Joseph is playing mind games. Wait, did I start recording? I started recording. Joseph is playing mind games with his brothers. The last thing we heard is Judah begging to be swapped with Benjamin in order to be a slave so that he doesn't have to go back. I burped while talking. So that he doesn't have to go back to his father and tell him that Benjamin's gone. Everybody knows Benjamin is Isaac's favorite, Jacob. Everybody knows that Benjamin is Jacob's favorite. They seem pretty chill with that too. Like they're pretty open about the fact that their father definitely loves Benjamin more than everybody else. So this one's called Joseph Makes Himself Known. This is nothing like the musical I did. Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. They make all of this seem so much more mild. You're singing songs, everybody's happy together. Nope, didn't really happen that way. Then Joseph could no longer control himself. Finally, I really thought this moment would come a lot sooner than it has. He has stressed the ever-living bejesus out of all of his brothers. Before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence!" Okay? Not really the reaction I thought he was going to have, not how I thought he was going to approach this situation. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. So that's what it was. He wanted everyone else to clear the room because, as I can see here in verse 2, and he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and the Pharaoh's household heard about it. I'm not making fun of him for crying, just the fact that it was so loud that people started spreading rumors about it. If he felt this way, why was he holding it in for so long? And why did he put his brothers through so much? What was the point? What was the point of all of that? It was just at absolute best, an unpleasant experience for everyone. At worst, traumatizing and damaging to the relationships with his siblings. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph! Is my father still living?" I thought he knew. That he told him his dad was still alive, just that he's old and potentially sad if Benjamin doesn't come home. But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Yeah, I would be too if the last thing I had done was sell him into slavery. And we were just like, we don't know if he's dead or if he's just a slave somewhere. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt." Even though he already said, "I am Joseph," he's like, guys, come here. I am has it been too long? Did you not care that much? The one you sold into Egyptian slavery? Do you remember that, Joseph? And now, do not be distressed. Don't be distressed after all the stuff that I just engineered for all of you to go through. And do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. I mean, yeah, he kind of has, it looks like I said 4D chess in a previous video. It is kind of like he's just pinned them into this position. Like, you can't be mad. You sold me out of the family. You sold me out, literally. Because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. So don't be angry with yourselves for selling me because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. I don't really agree with that reasoning. That is a very the ends justify the means type of argument. And people will excuse this because they'll say it was God's plan. I'm not really down for that. If that's an argument you have, I'm not really down for that one. You can argue it. You can argue it in the comments if you want to. If you want to make a case for it, that's fine. But I'm not saying like in this particular case it was justified. I'm saying that kind of, to be fair, Joseph's the one making this reasoning. I guess it's not God saying this, but he's basically claiming that it was like God's plan to do this. He says, God sent me ahead of you. It was because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. Yeah, that to me is morally wrong, ethically wrong. I don't think it's justified to commit, I guess in this case, what would be a sin, but in order to do something wrong for like a greater good. If it was forced, maybe that might be an argument, like the train track dilemma, where you can let a train, like what is it? I think you do nothing and a train will hit like 5 people, or if you pull a lever, it'll change course and only kill 1, but you have to make the choice to do it. That's not what's happening here. It's not that type of ethical dilemma. It's just the suggestion of like, in order for Joseph to have saved people in Egypt, his brothers had to have done this terrible thing to him. They had to have put him through this awful traumatic experience, which the Bible never really gets deep into. It doesn't go into like what Joseph went through during that transition, just that it happened. And then he started working his way up through Egypt, basically. He was in jail for like 2 years. Again, this goes back to the thing of like, God is powerful enough to do it another way. He didn't have to do it this way. He didn't have to do it in a way that would cause Joseph to suffer. He's all powerful. He could have done it in any other way, but he didn't. He did it in a way that involved suffering. And his chosen person, in Joseph in this case, is a major figure and a chosen figure by God. So yeah, all that to say, I have ethical problems with that. For 2 years now, there has been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. Now, one thing I've already learned from reading the comments in the videos is a lot of people have different religious assumptions than like what I grew up with. It may not necessarily be the same way of thinking, which now in hindsight, in retrospect, is very obvious. It was something I was not thinking about while I initially started recording these videos before they were released. I was pretty much, like I can pretty much openly admit I was just thinking about it, or primarily thinking about it from the perspective of the type of Christianity I was raised in. So now seeing that people have a few different perspectives or a few different angles on the way that they believe these things might cause you to interpret how these stories are playing out a little bit differently. I do have a bias from the Church of Christ way of thinking about the Bible's interpretations. Many people in the comments are pulling in arguments from like Judaism and talking about the root words in Hebrew, which I thought was really interesting and made some of it seem more fair or less crazy. I can say that just from reading the first like 150 comments that came across the early videos. Because still, only the first week has been released. I'm in the first week of release so far. So who knows where we'll be at by this point, by the time this is actually being uploaded. But I'm here to learn. Not like, I've said it before, but I'm not just here to like bring judgment to Christians or the Bible. It's mostly just to show that I've gone through this and I'm still an atheist. So he said, I was sent here by God to preserve a remnant on earth to save your lives by a great deliverance. So again, I don't know why God couldn't have just done that himself, why it needs to be Joseph doing this for his family rather than God for everyone. But whatever, not gonna answer that question right here, right now. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. Okay, he is explicitly making that argument. I'm trying to defend it here, but that's exactly what he's saying. That this was God's explicit plan in order to get food for his family or commit this good for having food for the land and making money for Egypt. He made me father to Pharaoh? What? He made me father to... What does that mean? I assumed Pharaoh was just older than him. Is there like a new person, a new line in Pharaoh? Is it like in terms of authority? Like he's the father of Pharaoh? That's one I don't get. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all of Egypt. Again, apart from his brother's comments a couple chapters ago, the last thing we got about Joseph's status was governor of Egypt. Is that like ruler? I thought governor would have been like a less than top spot. Like he governs. Like I guess that is like governing means like ruling in a certain sense. But I didn't think that meant like top governor, top ruler. I figured Pharaoh still had the final say and that Joseph was serving the Pharaoh ultimately. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. Man, this would be crazy. If you thought your son was dead and then you get a message 13 years later from all of your brothers. I don't know if I believe them. God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. And it'd be insane if Jacob already had contact with God, if he just found out God had sent his son somewhere else and made him ruler of an entire nation. That would be insane. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me. You, your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and all you have, I will provide for you there. Because 5 years of famine are still to come. I reacted that way because it said 5 years of famine, and I remembered thinking it was 7. So I was like, so they gave us a number. And then it said still to come. So I was like, so I guess some of the time has passed, and there's 5 years left. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. All right, so that's quite the ultimatum. He really didn't dance around that one very much. Either come here and be prosperous beyond your wildest dreams, or become destitute. Your call. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. How is that? Apart from the fact that he told them, how are they able to see that it's him? Tell my father about all the honor accorded me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly. Again, he said down. So again, I'm thinking Canaan's up north somewhere. I said that in a previous video too. This would be, again, such a crazy experience from Jacob's perspective. His sons all come back. They go, hey, not only is Joseph alive, he's above the Pharaoh in Egypt. He is more, by the way, is this like according to historical documents? Do we have records from Egypt of someone being higher than a pharaoh or equal to a pharaoh? And was that person Joseph? Again, I don't know where in the timeline this is. When did Egypt start? I'm missing a lot of historical context here, but this is the sort of thing where I go like, what things do non-religious historians agree with or cross over with Bible? Is there real world historical evidence of this outside the Bible? That's my question to you guys. Which, you can post in the comments, and I'll do if it's not too crazy. I have capacity limits on how many comments I can read, but I will do my best to get to them. Also, if you comment, it's better. It's really hard for me to get through 5 paragraphs at a time when there's so many comments coming in. And I know that's it's putting a cap on if you want to explain something in detail here. That's kind of it's a bit of a limiter, and I'm hamstringing possible arguments you could make. Again, I'll do my best, but the shorter the better if you can help it. Succinctness. Be succinct. That's what I'm looking for. Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept. Doing a lot of weeping lately. Again, it's understandable. He's been away from his family for ages. I don't even know if he knew Benjamin existed or not. I can't remember if he was a part of the household when Benjamin was born. Probably, maybe. I don't know. I thought Joseph was the youngest at the time. And Benjamin embraced him weeping. So they're both weeping. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterward, his brothers talked with him. It's really a classic case of men holding their feelings on the inside. He sees all of his brothers show up. He plays he pretends like he's Jigsaw from the Saw movies, plays these crazy mind games with him. And then when he finally reveals himself, just starts weeping everywhere. It's okay to cry, guys. The fact that is a cultural standard or stigma for so many men, especially American men, especially the older you get and that being more of a thing. There's nothing wrong with having feelings. If you're worried about being judged by other men or other women, screw them. Who cares? You really want to be with someone who's going to judge you for something like that? Anyway, you're throwing too many of my personal opinions in there, even though there is, that's life opinion. The whole point is to give opinions about this, but I'm not trying to give life advice. But I did, so there you go. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brothers had come, Pharaoh and all of his officials were pleased. Interesting, despite the fact that it said that, what was it? Let me look. Egyptians could not eat with Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians. That's from Genesis chapter 43. So the Pharaoh and all his officials were pleased despite finding Hebrews detestable. Pharaoh said to Joseph, tell your brothers, do this. Load your animals and return to the land of Canaan, and bring your father and your families back to me. Oh, that's right, because the brothers have kids too. They're all the dads said goodbye off to go get food from Egypt. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land. Yum, 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 yum. You were also directed to tell him, do this, do this, do that. Take some carts from Egypt for your children and your wives, and get your father and come. Never mind about your belongings, because the best of all Egypt will be yours. This is before we had climate change problems. People could just leave all their possessions behind. It wouldn't damage anything too much. So the sons of Israel did this. Joseph gave them carts as Pharaoh had commanded. God, the technology would have been so much worse. I would hate literally carting a cart through the desert. No paved roads, nothing to take care of. Is it a vehicle? You call it a vehicle that you have to drag? It's rolling, I guess. They apparently invented the wheel in the course of a few generations. So the sons of Israel did this. This makes so much more sense. I used to always hear the sons of Israel, and I always thought the state of Israel. I didn't think literally the man named Israel, Jacob. The sons of Israel did this. That's not talking about society. It's talking about these guys. Joseph gave them carts, as Pharaoh had commanded, and he also gave them provisions for their journey. To each of them, he gave new clothing. But to Benjamin, But to Benjamin, he gave 300 shekels of silver. I thought that was the end of the sentence. He gave Benjamin 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of clothes. Are none of the other brothers bothered by this? He's just showing clear favoritism to Benjamin. And this is what he sent his father. 10 donkeys loaded with the best things of Egypt. What are the best things of Egypt? They named like honey and myrrh and spices whenever the brothers are bringing things to Egypt, but now that he's sending things back, we don't know what they are. And 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other provisions for his journey. So we at least know there's bread. There's bread and grain on there. Then he sent his brothers away. As they were leaving, he said to them, "Don't quarrel on the way." A little life lesson from Father Joseph here. Is there going to be any context for that? Or is he just saying, don't? You would think they're in pretty good moods at this point. Oh, whew! We didn't get slain. None of us got murdered. Sure am glad, even though we sent our brother off into slavery. No consequences, just a little bit of psychological torment. I want to play a game. So they went up to Egypt and came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They told him, "Joseph is still alive!" Exclamation point. In fact, he is ruler of all of Egypt. He'd be like, what? Jacob was stunned. He did not believe them. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'd be like, nah, that's not true. You guys are playing tricks on me again. But they are like, look, we have Simeon, we have Benjamin. They have like what seems like fairly good evidence. But when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when they saw the carts Joseph had sent to carry him back, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. And Israel said, "I'm convinced. My son is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." So the happiness is now keeping him alive long enough to get back to his son Joseph, who he hasn't seen in ages. They are still living until like 150, I think, like 120 to 150. They're even close to like normal human age at this point. So he should know, I don't know however frail he is, but he should have a few good years in him to get down to Egypt and die peacefully, knowing that all of his sons are okay. And he wasn't torn apart by wild animals. Next chapter is 46. We're almost done. We're almost done with Genesis. I'm getting excited. I'm getting fired up. I really hope Exodus is entertaining and not just awful. We haven't even encountered Moses yet. So, hey, we got Moses in here. We're going to find David eventually. What other names do I know? Jesus is somewhere. I'll see you guys in the next video.